Chapter 3364. The Sir God experts of the barbarian tribe were completely one-sided. Even their leader was killed. The rest of the barbarian tribe lost their morale. Retreat, retreat. Let's go. The rest of the barbarian tribe was in chaos. Some of them were defending while others had already retreated. As such, they were no match for Lu Ming and the rest. They were being suppressed by Lu Ming and the rest. Some of the Sir Gods under Lu Ming's command also freed themselves from the battle and killed the barbarian tribe members who were below the Sir God level. The scene was completely one-sided. Although the barbarian tribe had a large number of people, they were reaped like rice straws. Large numbers of barbarian tribe members were killed. The barbarian tribe members fled in all directions. Lu Ming and the rest chased after them. The battleship that was tens of millions of miles long was fighting everywhere. After a few hours, the battle on the battleship ended. Almost all of the barbarian tribe members were killed. Lu Ming returned to the control room. "It would be great if I could keep such a huge battleship," Lu Ming muttered. The largest battleship he had was only 1,000,000 miles long. It was a few grades lower than this battleship. Lu Ming was tempted. According to the rules, he had to hand over the battleship. However, Lu Ming could not bear to do so. Unfortunately, the battleship was too big. His storage ring could not store such a battleship. "Kid, the shocking feather scroll contains a huge space. It is more than enough to store such a large battleship." At this moment, Jiu Mo transmitted his voice to Lu Ming. "Shocking feather scroll." Lu Ming's eyes lit up. "Then let's retreat first," Lu Ming said. He then gathered everyone and exited the battleship, leaving it. At this moment, the battle on the other battleships was still going on. No one would notice them. Lu Ming's mind stirred and the shocking feather scroll flew out. A ray of light spread out and shrouded the battleship. Then, a shocking scene appeared. The huge battleship quickly shrunk. Finally, it turned into a ray of light and flew into the shocking feather scroll. Lu Ming's subordinates were stunned again. They felt that Lu Ming was really mysterious. Of course, they were secretly looking forward to it. The stronger and more mysterious Lu Ming was, the more promising he would be in the future. Since they had already submitted to Lu Ming, the stronger Lu Ming was, the happier they would be. "Let's go and help the other battleships," Lu Ming shouted. He led the group and charged toward another battleship that was tens of millions of miles long. Lu Ming would not attack the larger battleships. The larger the warship, the stronger the expert. Even with a great expert like Myriad God, Lu Ming was unwilling to take the risk. Fighting was still going on in the warship. The one who attacked this battleship was a powerful warrior from the Marquis household. They fought their way to the central control room and were met with fierce resistance from the barbarians. After a few hours of fighting, there was still no clear winner. There are so many experts in this warship. The Marquis of the Marquis Manor roared in his heart. He was a third-level divine monarch, but the other party also had a third-level divine monarch to block him. The remaining barbarians were not weaker than the experts he had brought with him. For a moment, they were in a tough battle. After a few hours of fighting, both sides suffered great losses. At this moment, Lu Ming led the others and charged over. "Who is it?" Seeing the people charging over, the Marquis household and the barbarians were shocked. They did not know whether they were friends or foes. But soon, they saw Lu Ming and the others. The barbarians were shocked. The Marquis household was delighted at first, but then he sighed in his heart. "It's a member of the general's household." The Marquis household shook his head. How many experts could a general's household have? Having 2 or 3 divine monarchs was already a big deal. It would not be of much use to the overall situation. Originally, he thought that it was another Marquis household or the 8th Barbarian Extermination Army. "You guys restrain them from the side," the Marquis household shouted and asked Lu Ming to restrain the barbarians from the side. With the strength of Lu Ming and the others, it was good enough that they could restrain the barbarians. Why go through so much trouble? Just kill them all. Lu Ming smiled. "Kill them? Young man, don't underestimate your enemies. You are very strong. You will be at a disadvantage." the Marquis household quickly warned. But before he could finish, he was stunned. Because Lu Ming and the others had already charged over. Moreover, the aura that they exuded made him speechless. There were more than a dozen divine monarchs. The divine kings below the divine monarchs were all elites. Once Lu Ming and the others attacked, the barbarians were suppressed. Especially Wen Shun, who killed 2 divine monarchs of the barbarians. Is this still the general's household? The Marquis household was stunned. Then, he became excited and led the others to attack fiercely. With the addition of Lu Ming and the others, the outcome of the battle was determined. Before long, the barbarians on the battleship were also annihilated. It's a pity that there are people here. I can't take the battleship away. Lu Ming muttered. Young man, thank you. How should I address you? The Marquis household walked over and cupped his fists in gratitude. Now, he did not dare to look down on Lu Ming just because Lu Ming was from the general's household. Lu Ming said with a smile. Lu Ming, the top scorer of the Great Void Imperial Academy, the Marquis household blurted out. Obviously, he had heard of Lu Ming's name. That's me, Lu Ming said with a smile. You are indeed a young hero. You deserve the title of top scorer, the Marquis household praised. Marquis, you flatter me. Let's go out first, Lu Ming said. Then, they exited the battleship. As soon as they came out of the battleship, they heard a violent explosion in the distance. It was from the largest battleship. In front of the battleship, flames soared into the sky. A huge spear radiance rushed out of the battleship. A large part of the battleship that was hundreds of millions of miles long exploded. Boom. Then, there was another explosion in the area. The battleship continued to explode and debris flew in all directions. Then, Lu Ming saw 2 figures fighting fiercely. One was a general of the 8th Barbarian Extermination Army and the other was a burly barbarian. The 2 of them fought fiercely. The starry sky shook and terrifying forces spread across hundreds of millions of miles. What terrifying strength! Lu Ming's pupils contracted. The 2 of them were extremely powerful and terrifying. Their combat strength was definitely above that of Wen Shun. They were definitely terrifying existences above the 4th level of the Divine Lord realm. The 2 of them were very fast. In the blink of an eye, they had exchanged dozens of blows. However, the general of the 8th Barbarian Extermination Army was still stronger. In fact, they had a plan for this attack. They were confident that they could annihilate the barbarian fleet. Otherwise, they would not have taken the risk to attack. The general of the 8th Barbarian Extermination Army roared and the starry sky shook. His spear radiance rushed into the sky and suppressed the barbarian expert. After a few more blows, the barbarian was swept by the spear radiance. Half of his body exploded and he retreated quickly. Chapter 3365. The general of the barbarian tribe was severely injured. The general of the 8th Barbarian Extermination Army launched a fierce attack, not giving the barbarian a chance to breathe. After a few more moves, the barbarian was killed in the starry sky. The general of the barbarian tribe was killed. Seeing this, Lu Ming and the others knew that the result of this battle was already decided. Let's go to the other battleships. Immediately, Lu Ming led the others to kill the other battleships. This was a good opportunity to gain merits. They could not miss it. Then, they went to a slightly bigger battleship and fought with the barbarians in it. Lu Ming was always in the front line, fighting with the peak Divine King Realm barbarians to train himself. The battle did not last for long. After the general of the barbarian tribe was killed, the general of the 8th Barbarian Extermination Army joined the battle. The battle began to be one-sided. After half a day, they had gained the upper hand on all the battleships. Many of the barbarians on the battleships were almost killed. After another half a day, the battle on the battleships gradually subsided. The barbarians were destroyed and the Taishu dynasty had won a great victory. Well, we have won this battle. When the experts of various prefectures gathered again, the general announced. However, his eyes were like lightning, and he continued to say, however, this is just the vanguard of the barbarians. The main forces behind have not arrived yet. However, our main forces will be here soon. We will launch a counterattack and reclaim the star area that the barbarians have seized," the general announced. After that, they took the battleships and found a place to rest, waiting for the main forces to arrive. More than 10 days later, the main forces of the 8th Barbarian Extermination Army arrived. At the same time, they brought news that the other armies of the 8th Barbarian Extermination Army had finished their preparations and would launch an attack soon. Sure enough, a few days later, they launched an attack on the star area that was occupied by the barbarians. In the vast starry sky, the flames of war were raging and there were continuous battles. Lu Ming and the others followed the 8th Barbarian Extermination Army to fight against the barbarians. They were accumulating merits and training themselves. This was a protracted battle. It was impossible to determine the winner quickly. In the following days, a great battle would break out every few months. Time passed quickly. Lu Ming and the others had entered the battlefield for nearly 10 years. In these 10 years, Lu Ming and the others had experienced dozens of battles, big and small. Of course, there were also losses, but those who survived were all elites. They had all been tempered, and their fighting spirit was soaring. In the battle of life and death, some people even achieved breakthroughs. Some people's divine power of origin had a breakthrough, while some people's cultivation base had a breakthrough. Lu Ming had also gained a lot. After going through continuous battles and tempering, his overlord spear force finally had a breakthrough and reached the third awakening. Not only that, but the other type of divine power of yin had also broken through and entered the third awakening. The 3 consecutive awakenings of 2 types of divine powers had undoubtedly made Lu Ming's strength even stronger. 3 awakenings were the foundation for entering the Divine Lord realm. Countless people were trapped at the peak Divine King realm, but they had yet to undergo their third awakening. Lu Ming was only at the 5th King God layer, but he had already awakened 3 kinds of God powers. If the other King God realm experts knew about this, they would be jealous. Of course, the one who improved the most was the Myriad Gods. Myriad Gods had boundless potential, and he was improving every day in the battle. His strength was getting stronger, and the power of his various secret techniques was also getting stronger. His cultivation base had even broken through 1 level, entering the 2nd King God layer. This speed was frightening. One should know that Myriad Gods had just broken through to the 1st King God layer not long ago. It had only been a little more than 10 years, and he had already broken through 1 level. This speed was unbelievable. After 10 years of fighting, the Taishu dynasty had invested a large number of troops, and finally gained the upper hand, reclaiming the star sector that the barbarian tribe had taken away. However, the Taishu dynasty did not intend to let it go just like that. They were increasing their troops, preparing to counterattack and attack the barbarian tribe's territory to teach them a lesson. On a resource planet, Lu Ming and the others were temporarily stationed there, waiting for orders. The divine power of sun is still a little lacking. Lu Ming sat cross-legged on a piece of high ground. In the sky, a huge star was suspended, and wisps of light scattered, gathering toward Lu Ming and being absorbed by Lu Ming. This was the energy of the star, and it was extremely young. Lu Ming was using the star's energy to comprehend the divine power of Sunday. He had already awakened the divine power of sun for the 3rd time, but he was still 1 step away from the divine power of Sunday. Lu Ming wanted to comprehend it as soon as possible. In this way, he would be able to unleash the strongest prowess of the secret skills of origin that corresponded to the 2 divine powers. Just as Lu Ming was comprehending seriously, he received a voice transmission from Blue Merchant. The general invites him in. Lu Ming moved and returned to the camp. He saw a burly man in armor. Lu Ming, the general invites you for a meeting, the burly man in armor said. Okay. Lu Ming nodded, not suspecting anything. It was normal for the general of the barbarian extermination army to invite them for a meeting. Lu Ming followed the burly man in armor and flew out. However, after flying for a while, Lu Ming felt that something was amiss. The place they were heading toward was getting more and more desolate. The general's camp doesn't seem to be in this direction, right? Lu Ming stopped and asked coldly. The general didn't summon you in the camp this time. He's somewhere else. The burly man in armor said. Is that so? Lu Ming muttered, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. He charged toward the burly man in armor and shouted angrily, Who are you? Boom. He grabbed at the burly man in armor with his big hand. The burly man in armor was shocked. He let out a long roar, and his aura erupted as he threw a punch at Lu Ming. This burly man in armor had the cultivation of a peak divine king, but he was no match for Lu Ming. The two of them exchanged blows, and the burly man in armor's body shook violently. He kept retreating, and crashed into a mountain peak. Who sent you? Speak. Lu Ming shouted coldly. I think you've misunderstood. The general really sent me to look for you. The burly man in armor was still stubborn, but he kept retreating, trying to distance himself from Lu Ming. You still dare to quibble? Then I'll have to take you down and confront the general. Lu Ming shouted coldly. He stomped on the ground, and the ground cracked. Lu Ming was like a kuanping, and he pounced on the burly man in armor. His speed was extremely shocking, and he caught up with the burly man in armor in an instant. The burly man in armor was helpless, and he tried his best to resist Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming's combat strength was much stronger than 10 years ago. An ordinary peak divine king was no match for him. The two of them exchanged a few blows, and the burly man in armor was sent flying. He crashed into a few mountains, and he coughed out blood. Say, who sent you? Lu Ming stepped on the void, and stood above the burly man in armor, and said coldly. The burly man in armor opened his mouth to speak. Suddenly, a sword light shot down from the sky, and slashed at the burly man in armor. Fast, it was an extremely fast sword light. Chapter 3366. A ray of sword light slashed towards the armored burly man at an unimaginable speed. Like a flying immortal, it illuminated the land. The armored burly man was horrified. Just as he was about to roar, the sword light arrived. Poochie. The armored burly man was split in half. Then, a figure wrapped in a black robe stepped down from the sky. This person was wrapped in a black robe and there was a strange energy shrouding his body. Lu Ming couldn't see his appearance at all. Even his spiritual consciousness couldn't penetrate. Who are you? Lu Ming narrowed his eyes and stared at the other party. He was in a defensive position. Although the other party had killed the armored burly man, Lu Ming didn't think that the other party was here to help him. This was because Lu Ming could clearly feel that the other party was emitting a faint murderous intent. This murderous intent was obviously targeted at him. The person who will kill you. The black-robed man spoke. His voice was hoarse and unpleasant, like the friction of metal. Clang. As soon as the other party finished speaking, the sound of a sword resounded through the sky. A terrifying ray of sword light slashed towards Lu Ming. Facing this ray of sword light, Lu Ming instinctively felt a strong sense of danger. Overlord God Spear. Lu Ming displayed the Overlord God Spear. With a thrust, a huge god of war appeared in the sky. It held a long spear and stabbed forward. However, the sword light slashed and there was an ear-piercing sound. Lu Ming's god of war was defeated and cut in half. Kill. A cold voice sounded. The black-robed man's figure flashed. He didn't see how he moved. In 2 flashes, he was in front of Lu Ming. The sword light was like lightning, slashing towards Lu Ming's forehead. Fast, ruthless, accurate. The power was so terrifying that a layer of goosebumps appeared all over Lu Ming's body. Gate of Domination. Lu Ming let out a low roar. The Gate of Domination appeared in front of him. Clang. The sword light slashed at the Gate of Gods, causing it to shake violently as if it was about to collapse. At the same time, a terrifying force acted on Lu Ming's body, and Lu Ming's body trembled as he quickly retreated. What terrifying strength! Lu Ming suppressed his roiling qi and blood, inwardly shocked. This black-robed man was terrifyingly powerful. It was not that the other party's cultivation was high. Lu Ming could clearly feel that the other party was not a divine lord, but a divine king. They were not even peak divine kings, but lower realms. However, the other party seemed to be intentionally hiding his cultivation base. He had utilized some sort of secret technique and his body was shrouded in a mysterious aura. Due to that, Lu Ming found it difficult to accurately determine his cultivation base. But he was definitely a terrifying figure. As soon as Lu Ming retreated, the other side continued to attack. Terrifying sword lights shot towards Lu Ming. Every sword light was comparable to a peak divine king's all-out attack. Lu Ming did not dare to be careless. He displayed the ancient god body, and his body rapidly enlarged, turning into a blue-armored ancient god. Boom! Lu Ming took a step forward and brandished the Overlord God spear with one hand. A long river of spear Dao appeared, wanting to envelop the other party. At the same time, he controlled the gate of domination to suppress the other party. Moreover, as he unleashed these attacks, Lu Ming also displayed the yin-yang god pupil secret technique. In the sky, two vortexes suddenly appeared. One was extremely cold, the other was scorching hot. Both exploded with destructive attacks, charging towards the black-robed man. The moment Lu Ming attacked, it was a storm-like attack. Once such an attack was unleashed, even a peak divine king would be killed. The black-robed man let out a long roar. Sword light soared into the sky. His entire body seemed to have transformed into a divine sword, as if he could split the universe and cut apart the starry sky. The sword light soared and split the long river of spear Dao into half. Then, it struck the gate of domination and sent it flying. A deep sword wound appeared on it. In the end, it collided with the destructive power of the yin-yang god pupil, causing a sky full of energy. Countless energy blasts bombarded the ground, and a huge explosion occurred on the resource planet. Pieces of the ground kept exploding, and magma soared into the sky. If this continued, it would not be long before this huge resource planet was destroyed in the battle between the two. What's going on? The battle here alarmed the military camp on the resource planet. Many people looked over, thinking that it was attacked by the barbarian tribe. Although the resource planet was very large, tens of thousands of times larger than many small kiliocosms, at their level, the battle caused too much of a commotion. When they collided with each other, the entire planet shook and was on the verge of destruction. Even the people on the other side of the planet could clearly feel it. Sword of slaughter. As if he knew that he had alarmed the people in the military camp, the black-robed man used his ultimate move. Suddenly, a few terrifying sword lights soared into the sky, breaking through the starry sky. Each sword light contained a terrifying killing intent. This was the sword of slaughter, and its power was powerful and terrifying. The sword lights shrouded Lu Ming from different directions. Obviously, the black-robed man wanted to kill Lu Ming before the people in the military camp arrived. Boom! At this time, an even more terrifying aura erupted from Lu Ming's body. The majestic power was like the deep sea. Battle formula, 5 times combat strength. From the beginning, Lu Ming had been constantly activating the battle formula, and finally, he succeeded in activating the battle formula to increase his combat strength by 5 times. 5 times combat strength, coupled with the blue-armored ancient god, made Lu Ming's strength extremely powerful. Boom! The Overlord spear swept across, and the void exploded, bringing with it a violent airflow that swept in all directions. Boom! 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 The Overlord spear and the sword of slaughter collided, and a terrifying explosion erupted. The planet kept exploding, and a small part of the resource planet directly exploded. Lu Ming and the black-robed man soared into the sky and rushed into space, facing each other from a distance. In the distance, a rainbow light rushed over at an astonishing speed. "You're lucky this time," the black-robed man's hoarse voice sounded, and then he turned into a sword light. His body flashed and disappeared without a trace. As soon as the black-robed man left, a few burly men in armor flew over and stood in the void, sweeping their eyes like lightning. They were the experts of the 8th Barbarian Extermination Army. On this resource planet, in addition to Lu Ming's group, there were other families and the 8th Barbarian Extermination Army stationed there. Hidden Dragon General? What happened just now? A burly man in armor recognized Lu Ming. Lu Ming was the mansion master of a general's mansion. He could be called a mansion master or a general. "Someone attacked me just now," Lu Ming said. "Someone attacked you? Was it a barbarian?" The burly man in armor said. "I don't know." The other party was wrapped in a black robe, and I couldn't see his appearance, but he shouldn't be a barbarian, Lu Ming said. Not a barbarian? The few generals in armor looked around and muttered in their hearts. If it wasn't a barbarian, could it be Lu Ming's enemy? If so, it wouldn't be good for them to intervene. How about this? We'll send someone to investigate immediately. Hidden Dragon General, you go back to the barracks first. A burly man in armor said. Then I'll have to trouble you. Lu Ming nodded and flew back to his barracks. Chapter 3367. Lu Ming flew back to the barracks with a frown. He was guessing who the black-robed man was. Or rather, who sent him. Could he be sent by the Crown Prince or the Grand Tutor? Lu Ming thought about it but felt that it wasn't the case. If it was the Crown Prince or the Grand Tutor, they would have sent a Sir God expert to kill him. However, the black-robed man was obviously not a Sir God but a king of gods. He was a peerless genius with terrifying combat power. Kid, he has the origin ancient word. Just then, the voice of the quantifier formula rang in Lu Ming's consciousness. What? He has the origin ancient word. Lu Ming was shocked. That's right. Although he didn't use the origin ancient word in the battle just now, there was still a fluctuation and I noticed it. The quantifier formula said. Origin ancient word, could it be him? There was a gleam in Lu Ming's eyes. In the Taishu dynasty, there was only one person who had the origin ancient word and that was Di Jenny. The more Lu Ming thought about it, the more he felt it was possible. In the battle just now, the other party seemed to be hiding it deliberately and didn't use the origin secret skill. He was obviously afraid that Lu Ming would recognize him. In that case, he should know Lu Ming. Moreover, among the supreme talents that Lu Ming knew, Di Jenny was the only one who had such terrifying strength who was below the Sir God level. Because Di Jenny had always been mysterious, Lu Ming had never seen Di Jenny use his full strength. Why does Di Jenny want to kill me? Lu Ming frowned. I reckon that he guessed that you have the origin ancient word. The quantifier formula said. Guessed that I have the origin ancient word. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed. That's right. Although the other origin ancient words aren't as sensitive as me and can sense it, the origin ancient word still has some characteristics. For example, the battle formula can continuously increase combat power. For example, I can store a large amount of divine power and have infinite divine power. The other party has the origin ancient word and knows the characteristics of the other origin ancient words. It's not hard to guess. The quantifying formula said. I see. Lu Ming suddenly understood. He had fought many battles, especially during the Great Void Royal Family's Saint Academy. He had used the battle word formula and quantification word formula many times and Di Jenny had seen it all. Through these observations, Di Jenny might have guessed that Lu Ming had the origin ancient word. Hence, he wanted to kill him and steal the origin ancient word. If that was the case, everything made sense. Di Jenny had guessed that Lu Ming might have the origin ancient word and wanted to snatch it. Hence, he had bribed the burly man in armor to trick Lu Ming into coming out alone to kill Lu Ming. This was because when Lu Ming was in the barracks or in the Hidden Dragon Hall, there were too many experts around him. The other party couldn't do anything to him. However, the other party was also afraid that he might fail to kill Lu Ming, so he concealed his identity. He did not dare to use the origin ancient characters, nor did he use any secret techniques. However, the other party still miscalculated. He did not know that Lu Ming had the measure word art. Even if the other party did not activate the origin ancient character, the measure word art could still sense it. Di Jenny. There was a cold gleam in Lu Ming's eyes. Since you want to snatch my origin ancient word, the origin ancient word on your body is mine, Lu Ming muttered with cold murderous intent. However, although Lu Ming thought so, he did not dare to underestimate Di Jenny. Lu Ming was shocked by Di Jenny's power. It was unfathomable. Previously, Di Jenny had purposely concealed his power and most likely did not use his full power. If Di Jenny were to use his full power, it would be even more shocking. However, Lu Ming reckoned that Di Jenny's cultivation level should be above his. If they were at the same level, Jian Wushuang did not believe that Di Jenny would have such terrifying fighting power. As he thought about it, Lu Ming had already returned to the barracks. Lu Ming, what happened? When Lu Ming returned, Blue Merchant and the rest came out to welcome him and asked worriedly. Nothing much. There was a spy from the barbarian tribe who was killed. Lu Ming casually found an excuse so that Blue Merchant and the rest would not be worried. After that, the barbarian extermination army was mobilized to look for the man in the black robe. However, they naturally did not find anything. Lu Ming had expected that. Since the other party was Di Jenny, how could they find out anything? He reckoned that Di Jenny was now in the army freely. As expected, after a period of time, they did not find anything and the matter was left unsettled. In the starry sky, a large number of battleships were floating and it was a magnificent sight. This was the right wing of the 8th Barbarian Extermination Army and it was led by Shi Huang. On this day, there was an uninvited guest in Shi Huang's battleship. Brother Wu, why aren't you enjoying your life in the Imperial Tutor's mansion? Why are you here at the border? Shi Huang cupped his fists at an elder. The elder was the cousin of the Imperial Tutor. His name was Wu Yang and he was an important figure in the Imperial Tutor's mansion. Even though he was a border general, he had to be polite to him. The Imperial Tutor has something to ask you for help. Wu Yang smiled. If the Imperial Tutor has something to ask of me, I will do my best. What is it? Shi Huang asked curiously. The Hidden Dragon General's mansion in the Heaven Chaos Star region should be under your command now, right? Wu Yang said. That's right. Could it be related to the Hidden Dragon General's mansion? Shi Huang asked. That's right. Lu Ming in the Hidden Dragon Mansion has a feud with the Imperial Tutor. The Imperial Tutor wants you to find a chance to get rid of Lu Ming. Such a small matter shouldn't be difficult for you, right? Wu Yang said. Get rid of Lu Ming. Shi Huang's face changed and he said solemnly, this is not easy to do, General. Don't worry. The Imperial Tutor will not forget you. If you have any requests, just let me know. How could Wu Yang not know what Shi Huang was thinking? He immediately reassured Wu Yang. Ha ha ha, since the Imperial Tutor is so straightforward, great. I will definitely help you. Shi Huang laughed. It was merely Lu Ming. In this war at the border, he had dozens of ways to kill Lu Ming. Moreover, he could curry favor with the preceptor. Why not? General is straightforward. Then I will go back and wait for your good news. Wu Yang smiled. He stood up and cupped his fists before leaving. Lu Ming, you have offended the Imperial Tutor. Don't blame me. Men, call Lu Ming from the Hidden Dragon Mansion here. Shi Huang immediately ordered someone to call Lu Ming. Lu Ming was cultivating. He was a little surprised when he heard someone calling for him again. However, Lu Ming didn't think too much when he saw the person. He knew this person. He was one of Shi Huang's guards. He shouldn't have been bribed. Lu Ming followed the person to a large hall. Shi Huang sat on the main seat. There were a few people beside him. They were all his confidants. Greetings, General. Lu Ming cupped his fists. Lu Ming, I have an important task for you this time, Shi Huang said. General, please tell me. Lu Ming said. Okay. Shi Huang nodded. He then waved his hand and a pattern appeared in the air. It was a huge planet. Chapter 3368. The Heavenly Rainbow Planet is a huge resource planet. At the same time, it's also an important place that needs someone to guard. Now, I'll give this task to the Hidden Dragon Hall. You guys will guard this planet for 10 years. What do you think? Shi Huang pointed at the planet in the pattern. Guard this planet? Lu Ming was slightly taken aback. They were in the middle of a war. If he was asked to guard this planet for a week, he wouldn't be able to get any credit. Fortunately, it was only 10 years, which wasn't too long. Lu Ming didn't care too much about it. He nodded and said, okay. When do we leave? We leave tomorrow, Shi Huang said. Lu Ming nodded and left. General, is it appropriate to ask the Hidden Dragon Hall to guard this Heavenly Rainbow Planet? You know, there's a wormhole in the Heavenly Rainbow Planet. After Lu Ming left, one of Shi Huang's confidants asked in confusion. That's right. The barbarian race has always wanted to take over the wormhole. I'm afraid that the Hidden Dragon Hall won't be able to defend it. They'll just die if they go. Another person said. I know that. After the Hidden Dragon Hall's people go over, we'll secretly deploy a large number of troops in the nearby space. When the barbarian race's people arrive, we'll catch them all in one fell swoop. Shi Huang said with a smile. The other end of the wormhole is in the barbarian race's territory while the other end is in our territory. The barbarian race is afraid that we'll be heavily guarded, so they won't dare to send people through the wormhole directly. We're afraid of each other. The barbarian race wants to attack us and take over this wormhole. They'll definitely send a large number of troops. The Hidden Dragon Hall's people won't be able to stop them. Won't that be a dead end? One of Shi Huang's confidants said. If we want to kill the barbarian race, we'll have to make some sacrifices. The Hidden Dragon Hall is the bait that I've sent out to attract the barbarian race's expert. Everyone here was Shi Huang's confidants. Shi Huang didn't hide his intentions and spoke frankly. It was not true that he wanted Lu Ming to guard this planet, but he wanted Lu Ming to be the bait and die. In this way, not only would he be able to help the Imperial Advisor get rid of Lu Ming, but he would also be able to kill a group of barbarians and gain credit. The general is wise. A few of his confidants began to flatter him. After Lu Ming returned to the encampment, he passed down this mission. The next day, they set off for the Heavenly Rainbow Planet. Traveling through the wormhole was extremely fast. After a few days, they arrived at the Heavenly Rainbow Planet. The Heavenly Rainbow Planet was extremely large, and its name came from the heavenly rainbow fruit that was produced there. Manor Lord Lu Ming, I'll leave this place to you from now on. The Heavenly Rainbow Planet had originally been guarded by a group of people. At this moment, the leader of this group had transferred the authority to Lu Ming. Thus, this group of people left the place. After Lu Ming took over, he began to make arrangements. First of all, he had to explore every corner of the planet so that it would be easier for him to set things up. Next, he had to set up the planet's defensive formation. This planet had originally been set up with a defensive formation that could defend the entire planet. However, after Blue Merchant's investigation, he felt that this formation was not perfect enough. In the following period of time, Blue Merchant led a few people who were proficient in formations and focused on perfecting this formation. Meanwhile, Lu Ming led the army and camped in a valley. Time passed day by day, and in the blink of an eye, a few months had passed. They had also explored the entire Heavenly Rainbow Planet. Lu Ming, I've found something. On this day, Blue Merchant suddenly transmitted a message to Lu Ming, saying that he had found a strange place. Lu Ming immediately rushed over and saw Blue Merchant. Lan Shu, what did you find? Lu Ming asked. Lu Ming, look at this lake. Blue Merchant pointed to a lake in front of them for Lu Ming to see. Lu Ming looked forward. There was a lake in front of him that was thousands of miles long and wide. The lake water was clear. Lu Ming looked at it for a long time, but he could not find anything strange. Lan Shu, what's strange about this lake? Lu Ming asked. This lake has been set up with a formation, an extremely powerful concealment formation. It seems to be hiding something. If I hadn't been perfecting this planet's defensive formation and checking step by step, I'm afraid I wouldn't have found it so easily, Blue Merchant said. Concealment formation? Lu Ming was a little puzzled. According to Shi Huang, this was just an ordinary resource planet. Why would a concealment formation be set up to hide something? Blue Merchant, can you break it? Lu Ming asked. Yes, but it will take some time, Blue Merchant said. All right, let's begin. Lu Ming nodded. Soon after, Blue Merchant stepped out and floated above the lake. The soul power between his eyebrows jumped, shining with rays of light. He waved his hands rapidly, sending out runes that landed on the lake. The lake was immediately suffused with light as runes appeared, forming a formation. There was indeed a concealment formation here. Immediately, Lu Ming transmitted his voice to Myriad God and the rest. Soon, Myriad God arrived with a group of experts. Lu Ming called for a group of experts as a precaution. He did not know what was hidden here. Blue Merchant's attainments in formations were very strong. Unfortunately, his stellar core had been destroyed, leaving him with only his soul power. It was difficult for him to crack the formation. It took him more than 2 months to crack the concealment formation on the lake. Once the formation was broken, a beam of light shot into the sky. Soon after, the lake water began to spin rapidly, forming a vortex. The water from the lake flowed into the whirlpool and disappeared without a trace, leaving behind only a pitch-black cave. What's hidden in this cave? Lu Ming frowned. He did not know why, but he had a bad feeling. He had heard that it was an ordinary resource planet, but there was a concealment formation here. Under the formation, there was a cave. This did not match the information he knew. Finally, Lu Ming decided to go down and take a look. He led Myriad God and a few Dark Ape Battle Race Divine Lord experts. Together with Blue Merchant, they flew towards the cave. They slowed down, not daring to go too fast for fear of danger. The cave was very deep. They flew all the way down, reaching a depth of tens of thousands of miles. Then, the cave continued forward. The journey was very peaceful. There was no danger, nor did they encounter any living beings. They followed the passage and flew for a while. At the end of the passage, a huge underground space appeared. In front of them, the space was constantly warping like a lake. In the warped space, there was a huge cave that led to an unknown place. This is a wormhole. Lu Ming was shocked. He recognized it at a glance. It was a wormhole. There was actually a wormhole here. In the Taishu dynasty, every wormhole was very precious. This was because a wormhole could instantly travel from one stellar domain to another. It was an extremely precious resource. Every wormhole had to be heavily guarded. But why was there no one guarding this place? Chapter 3369. From the previous concealment array, it could be seen that this place had been discovered long ago. It was impossible that no one had discovered it. However, there was no one guarding this place. There's actually a wormhole here, and it's even hidden by a concealment array. It seems that it's afraid of us discovering it. This isn't right. Lan Shong's brows knitted tightly. He also had a bad premonition. Let's go out first. Lu Ming immediately said. He felt that this matter wasn't simple. He had to go out and gather people to discuss it. At this moment, rumble. A loud rumbling sound came from outside, and the ground shook violently. Not good, there's a big battle outside. Get out quickly, Lu Ming shouted. They rushed out at full speed. Their speed was too fast. In a few breaths of time, they rushed out of this place and reached the surface. Rumble. A deafening sound came from high up in the sky. At this moment, the heavenly rainbow planet was emitting a dazzling light, forming a huge light shield that enveloped the entire planet. This was the planet's defensive array. After being perfected by Blue Merchant, its defensive power had increased by a lot. Lu Ming and the others saw burly figures appearing outside the light shield. Each figure was emitting a terrifying aura. It was incomparably domineering. These figures were attacking the planet's defensive array. Barbarian tribe. Lu Ming and the others were shocked. These figures were all barbarians. They were everywhere outside the starry sky. No one knew how many barbarians there were. Moreover, the aura emitted by some barbarians was too terrifying. Just the aura alone was enough to make the starry sky tremble. What a terrifying cultivation. Lu Ming and the others' faces were extremely ugly. The cultivation of some barbarians was simply terrifying. Even if they were far away, they could feel the terrifying pressure. They were definitely existences above the fourth layer Divine Lord realm. As for how high they were, they couldn't sense it at all. Let's go. Lu Ming and the others burst out at full speed and rushed to the camp. At this moment, the 5,000 or so subordinates that Lu Ming brought were all looking at the sky with pale faces. The strength of these barbarians was too strong. It wasn't something that they could fight against. They would probably be crushed in an instant. Quick, break the planet's defensive array. This wormhole will be ours. Outside the sky, a barbarian shouted. Boom. Boom. More barbarians joined in the attack. Terrifying attacks fell on the light shield formed by the planet's defensive array, causing the light shield to tremble constantly. If this continued, it wouldn't be long before the defensive array. This was because Lan Shong had been perfecting and strengthening it during this period of time. Otherwise, it would have been broken through. Wormhole, they're here for the wormhole. Lu's expression. Lu Ming, we have fallen into a trap and become sacrificial lambs, Lan Shong said solemnly. Lu Ming, given Lu Ming's intelligence, he completely understood what Lan Shong was trying to say. He had been tricked by Shi Huang. Previously, there had been people guarding this place, and they had even set up a concealment formation. Shi Huang must have known that there was a wormhole here, and most likely also knew that the barbarian tribe coveted this wormhole, but he still sent him here. This was to send him to his death. There must be someone else behind this. Lu Ming gritted his teeth. He did not offend the wild rhino, so why did the wild rhino want to kill him? He must have been instructed by someone else. Lu Ming reckoned that it was either the crown prince or the state preceptor. As for Di Jenny and the other forces, they did not have the power to make Shi Huang do things. Rumble. The tremors in the sky became even more intense, and the great array continued to tremble. Break. A barbarian race powerhouse shouted, his voice shaking the starry sky. This was an extremely terrifying existence. His cultivation was absolutely at the 4th level divine lord realm and above. He held the battle axe in his hand and swung it at the light barrier. The light barrier shook violently, and a crack appeared on it. Master, what should we do now? Many people asked Lu Ming. Their faces were pale and they looked fearful. When the great array was broken, the army of the barbarian tribe would arrive, and only death would await them. Go to the wormhole, enter the wormhole, Lu Ming shouted. There was no other way, and they could only take a gamble. The entire starry sky of the planet was surrounded by the barbarian tribe, and it was impossible to rush out. Moreover, the barbarian tribe's experts were too terrifying. Some experts might be able to kill them all with a slap. If they rushed out, they would not stand a chance. If they rushed towards the wormhole, they might stand a chance. Because Lu Ming did not know where the wormhole led to. What if it led to other places in the Taishu dynasty? Then they would be safe. This could be seen from the fact that the barbarian tribe had set up a concealment formation to hide the wormhole. It was possible. However, this time, Lu Ming had guessed wrong. Shi Huang had asked his men to set up a concealment formation not because the wormhole led to other places in the Taishu dynasty, but because he was afraid that Lu Ming would have a way out. It was because he was afraid that Lu Ming would discover the wormhole and become suspicious, and leave the heavenly rainbow planet early. Let's go. Lu Ming shouted and rushed towards the wormhole with his men. Fortunately, the place where they were stationed was not far from the wormhole. They were all Divine King experts, and they were extremely fast. In a few flashes, they arrived at the wormhole. Crack, crack. At this moment, more and more cracks appeared on the light barrier, and they filled the sky. The defensive formation was about to break. Let's go. Lu Ming did not hesitate and rushed into the wormhole with his men. Soon, they arrived at the entrance of the wormhole. Let's go. Lu Ming was the first to enter, and the others followed closely behind. They rushed into the wormhole and disappeared. Just a few breaths after Lu Ming and the others entered the wormhole, the defensive formation of the heavenly rainbow planet was completely broken. As soon as the defensive formation was broken, the barbarians rushed in. Swoosh, swoosh. A large group of barbarians came to the entrance of the wormhole. Those ants rushed into the wormhole. Should we go after them? A barbarian asked. There's no need to go after them. They will die if they enter the wormhole. Next, we have to guard the entrance of the wormhole. I think the Taishu dynasty will send people to attack this place, a barbarian leader said coldly, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. The other side led to the territory of the barbarians. If they rushed into the wormhole, they would die. In the distant starry sky of the heavenly rainbow planet, Shi Huang stood in the starry sky with his hands behind his back. His eyes flickered as if he was looking through the starry sky at the heavenly rainbow planet. Have you finally made your move? Lu Ming, Leave in peace. I will avenge you, Shi Huang said indifferently with a cold smile on his face. Then, runes appeared on his body, and he disappeared in the next moment. Soon after, huge battleships appeared from all directions and rushed towards the heavenly rainbow planet. An earth-shattering battle broke out on the heavenly rainbow planet. However, all of this had nothing to do with Lu Ming and the others. Chapter 3370. After Lu Ming and the others entered the wormhole, they seemed to have traversed an endless distance in the blink of an eye. The next moment, they appeared on a flat piece of land. Behind them was another wormhole entrance. Where is this? Lu Ming looked around, sizing up the surroundings. In front of them were towering mountains that blocked their vision. They seemed to be in a col surrounded by mountains. However, they did not see anyone. Is this really somewhere in the Taishu dynasty? Lu Ming was overjoyed. But at this moment, extreme joy turned to sorrow, and a sudden change occurred. Behind them, the wormhole entrance suddenly filled with endless runes. These runes formed a large array that completely sealed the entrance of the wormhole. What's going on? Many of Lu Ming's subordinates were shocked. Ha ha ha, finally, some bastards from the Taishu dynasty are here. In the distant mountains, a loud laugh could be heard. Then, a powerful aura burst out, forming a strong pressure that pressed down on Lu Ming and the others. Then, burly figures rushed out from the mountains in all directions. Barbarians, someone roared in despair. Barbarians appeared from all directions. It was obvious that the wormhole did not lead to the Taishu dynasty at all, but to the territory of the barbarians. They had run to the lair of the barbarians. Damn it! Lu Ming roared, his expression extremely ugly. This time, they were really screwed and had fallen into a desperate situation. The wormhole behind them was sealed by the large array, so there was no way out. Moreover, even if they could retreat, they would die if they returned to the heavenly rainbow planet. It's a pity that there are only a few small fish. There's no big fish. Some barbarians glanced at Lu Ming and the others, then sighed softly and showed a look of pity. The cultivation level of Lu Ming and the rest was indeed not high. The strongest Dark Ape Fighting Clan member was only a third-level Divine Lord. These barbarians did not take them seriously. These barbarians were not in a hurry to attack. They were like cats catching mice, sizing up Lu Ming and the others. They are indeed a few small fries. Hurry up and destroy them. Open the formation. Who knows, we might be able to let some small fries in, someone from the barbarian race said coldly. There's no need to use a butcher's knife to kill a chicken. Why don't you leave these small fries to me? A square-faced berserker said, killing intent flashing in his eyes. That's fine too. Take your men and destroy them. It's not bad for us to watch the show. The other barbarians sneered. The barbarians here were also divided into different armies. All right, brothers, follow me and destroy them. The square-faced berserker shouted and led a group of berserkers to attack Lu Ming and the others. This group of barbarians numbered about 5,000, which was about the same as Lu Ming's group. However, the number of barbarian tribe experts was obviously more than Lu Ming's group. The auras of the barbarians at the front were extremely terrifying. Especially the square-faced berserker and the other two barbarians. Their auras were the most terrifying. They were all third-level Divine Lords. They could see that there was only one third-level Divine Lord in Lu Ming's group. They had 3 third-level Divine Lords and the number of other experts was also more than Lu Ming's group. It was more than enough to kill Lu Ming and the others. What should we do? Some of Lu Ming's men were pale. Only the Dark Ape Fighting tribe stood around Lu Ming with a resolute gaze, revealing a strong fighting spirit. Protect the war ancestor and fight to the death with them. Fight to the death. The Dark Ape Fighting tribe experts roared. If you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. The square-faced berserker roared ferociously and chopped at Lu Ming with his axe. He could see that Lu Ming's group was led by Lu Ming. He wanted to kill Lu Ming directly. Don't even think about it. The Dark Ape Fighting tribe third-level Divine Lord expert roared and waved his iron rod, charging at the square-faced berserker. Boom! The two of them clashed and a terrifying explosion erupted. Ah! At this moment, a shrill and horrified scream rang out. Many barbarians turned pale with fright when they saw it. They only saw a burly berserker had his heart pierced by a youth and was struggling madly there. This berserker was an expert who was not weaker than the square-faced berserker. His cultivation had reached 3rd level Divine Lord. But now, his heart was pierced and he was on the verge of death. This youth was naturally Wan Shen. Kill. Wan Shen roared. His long hair fluttered and he tore with all his might. The 3rd level Divine Lord Barbarian was directly torn apart. Blood splattered on the ground and he died on the spot. Ha! Then, Wan Shen roared and a silver river appeared, enveloping a large number of barbarians, including the 3rd level Divine Lord expert. Those barbarians screamed miserably. In an instant, thousands of barbarians were killed. But those who were enveloped by the silver river almost all died. Only that 3rd level Divine Lord Barbarian roared with all his might and rushed out desperately. But he was also covered in blood and was seriously injured. What awaited him was Wan Shen's stone spear. Pewalk. The stone spear flew past and pierced through the head of this barbarian. The 3rd level Divine Lord was dead. All of this happened in the time it took for sparks to fly off a piece of flint. It was so fast that many barbarians could not react. After killing these barbarians, Wan Shen brought out the Gate of Sovereigns. In his Gate of Sovereigns, there was a terrifying black hole that spun continuously. Roar. A roar erupted from this black hole. It was like the roar of an ancient god, shaking heaven and earth. Large numbers of barbarians were directly shaken to death. Their bodies exploded, turning into a bloody mist. Now, Wan Shen had already reached 2nd level Divine Lord. His combat power was even more terrifying. Even 3rd level Divine Lords could be insta-killed. Damn it, retreat. At this time, the square-faced barbarian finally reacted. After exchanging a blow with the 3rd level Divine Lord Dark Ape fighting tribe, his figure retreated frantically. The remaining barbarians also hurriedly retreated. Wan Shen did not give chase. Instead, he stood in front of Lu Ming and company. His aura grew stronger and stronger, emanating an ancient and desolate aura. What terrifying strength! Even Lu Ming's subordinates, who had seen Wan Shen in action many times, were still amazed. But soon, they fell into despair. Wan Shen was strong, but his cultivation was too low. No matter how strong he was, he could not affect the overall situation. Just now, the barbarians had underestimated them and sent out a team. The truly terrifying existences had not made a move. Once they made a move, they would not have a chance. Damn it, D*MN trash, the square-faced barbarian roared angrily. But there was also fear in his eyes. If Wan Shen had attacked him just now, he would have died without a doubt. What terrifying combat power! He has mastered 3 origin secret techniques. This person must be a peerless monster of the Taishu dynasty. We've caught a big fish this time. The other barbarians also looked at Wan Shen in shock, including some terrifying existences. A person who had mastered so many origin secret techniques and was so freakishly strong, especially at such a young age. He had reached 2nd level Divine Lord. This was simply too monstrous. Chapter 3371. Kill, they must kill. Many barbarians looked at the myriad gods with murderous intent. Boom. Boom. A terrifying aura erupted as more barbarians stepped forward, pressing towards Lu Ming and the rest. The pressure was like a tsunami, pressing down on Lu Ming and the rest. Some of the weaker ones trembled and almost knelt down. The pressure was too great. Kill. Suddenly, a barbarian roared. Instantly, dozens of barbarians attacked. These dozens of barbarians were all in the Divine Lord realm. Among them, there was no lack of 3rd level Divine Lords or higher. They attacked indiscriminately. All kinds of attacks poured down on Lu Ming and the rest. This time, they would not give Lu Ming and the rest a chance. They would not underestimate them. A total of dozens of Divine Lord realm existences attacked. The scene was earth-shattering. It's over. Many people lamented. In the face of such an attack, they had no chance. Only death awaited them. Kid, it's over. Even Gu Mo let out such a sigh. Fight it out. Lu Ming roared. He took out the purple copper coffin and planned to open it regardless of the consequences. In the past, Lu Ming had only opened a crack and something terrifying had happened. If the purple copper coffin was completely opened, something shocking would definitely happen. Lu Ming did not know what would happen, but it was better than being killed by the barbarians. At the very least, he had to drag the barbarians down with him. Roar. At this moment, the myriad gods let out a terrifying roar. It was as though an ancient god was roaring. Finally, a stone clock flew out and rapidly expanded. It floated above Lu Ming and the rest. It scattered rays of light that enveloped Lu Ming and the rest. The attacks of dozens of barbarians were all blocked by the stone clock or the rays of light that fell from the stone clock. Dong, dong, dong. The stone clock vibrated violently and let out a terrifying roar. However, those attacks were blocked. They were completely blocked and did not hit Lu Ming and the rest. However, Myriad God was not in a good condition either. His body trembled violently and dense bloody scars appeared on his skin. Blood kept flowing out of his mouth. After blocking so many terrifying attacks, one could imagine how much pressure Myriad God was under. He was severely injured. Wan Shin, Lu Ming shouted. This could not go on. Myriad God alone would not be able to withstand the other party's attacks. I'll block them first, then open a path and rush out. The Myriad God transmitted his voice to Lu Ming. Continue attacking. A barbarian shouted loudly, and continued to launch attacks. The attacks fell on the stone clock, and the stone clock started to vibrate even more violently. Cracks even started to appear on its surface. Myriad God coughed out large mouthfuls of blood as more bloody wounds appeared on his body. His body looked like it was about to crack apart. Roar. The eyes of the myriad gods were filled with unyielding will. With a loud roar, heaven and earth shook. There seemed to be flames burning on the myriad god's body. These flames kept twisting and turning into different figures. They were the figures of different primordial divine spirits. These figures looked illusory, but they were roaring along with the myriad god. The world boiled as though dozens of primordial divine spirits had crossed time and space to arrive. This strange phenomenon shocked the barbarians, and they were stunned for a moment. Sky-splitting sword. The myriad god roared, his long hair fluttering. A stone sword appeared in his hand, emitting an endless radiance. Swoosh. The stone sword turned into a sword light. It did not slash at the barbarians, but at the void. Space immediately rippled like water. Then, a pitch-black vortex appeared in the sky. This vortex spun crazily and eventually turned into a cave. This is a wormhole. Lu Ming was flabbergasted. He could not believe his eyes. The myriad god had used a stone sword to open a wormhole. This was simply inconceivable. Miracle. This is simply a miracle. Legend has it that during the incipient god era, a primordial divine spirit could open a wormhole with just a move of his body. This myriad god must have inherited the power of that primordial divine spirit. At this moment, even Bone Devil roared in disbelief. Wormhole, all the barbarians also roared in disbelief. Their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. They never would have dreamed that a person could forcefully open up a wormhole, and it was even done by a divine Lord Realm powerhouse. In the current primitive universe, there were people who could open wormholes. Some terrifying races that had undergone atavism could open wormholes in the universe when their cultivation reached a certain level. Legend had it that the spacetime spirit rats had terrifying geniuses who had undergone atavism. They had the power of primordial divine spirits. When their cultivation reached a certain level, they could open wormholes. However, it was impossible for a second-layer divine lord to do so. Run. I can't hold on for long. The myriad god roared at Lu Ming and the others. Go. Lu Ming shouted. He knew that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He couldn't hesitate any longer. Immediately, Lu Ming's subordinates rushed into the wormhole and disappeared. In the blink of an eye, only the Dark Ape fighting tribe, Lu Ming, and the others were left. War Ancestor, You go first. A dark ape fighting tribe member shouted. Let's go together. As Lu Ming roared, he rushed forward, bringing the myriad god, the dark ape fighting tribe members, and the blue merchant into the wormhole. When Lu Ming brought the myriad god into the wormhole, the stone clock that the myriad god had created collapsed. Chase. At this moment, the barbarians woke up from their daze. They roared and rushed toward the wormhole. However, when they got close to it, the wormhole began to twist. Retreat. The wormhole is about to collapse. A barbarian shouted in horror. However, it was too late. One of the barbarians couldn't retreat in time and was sucked into the energy of the wormhole's collapse. He was instantly reduced to dust. The energy of the wormhole's collapse was extremely terrifying. Even an ordinary divine lord would find it difficult to withstand. In the next moment, the wormhole disappeared completely. Damn it! The barbarians roared in indignation. This time, they had so many experts but they couldn't stop Lu Ming and the others. Instead, they had lost so many experts. It was a great humiliation. I wonder where they escaped to. That kid is only a second-level divine lord. It's a miracle that he could open a wormhole. However, the distance can't be too far. Moreover, it's difficult to control the direction. He might still be in our territory. Let's report the news and get the marshal to send people to chase after him, an old barbarian said coldly. Then, they reported the news to their superiors. After Lu Ming and the others stepped into the wormhole, they appeared on a planet in the next moment. When they left the wormhole behind them began to twist and collapse. It's collapsing. Lu Ming wasn't shocked. Instead, he was happy. The collapse of the wormhole meant that the enemy couldn't chase after them. This wasn't a bad thing. In fact, it was a good thing. Chapter 3372. Myriad God's cultivation level is too low. It's already a miracle that he was able to open a wormhole. It's naturally difficult for him to maintain it. Therefore, the wormhole he opened will quickly collapse. Legend has it that there are terrifying existences that can open wormholes that can last forever. They are identical to the wormholes produced by nature, Bone Fiend explained. Lu Ming was enlightened. Where is this? Lu Ming took a closer look. What he saw was a stretch of barren land. There were bare rocks everywhere. There was no vegetation at all. I have to be careful. My cultivation level is too low. Even if I open a wormhole, the distance won't be very far. Furthermore, it's difficult to control the direction. This might still be within the barbarian realm. Myriad God opened his mouth. However, after saying a few words, blood constantly flowed out of his mouth. Myriad God's injuries were too severe. His face was pale and his aura was weak. His body was covered in cracks and looked like it would disintegrate at any moment. Previously, he had suffered heavy injuries while defending against the barbarians' attack. Later on, opening a wormhole in his forte only worsened his injuries. With his cultivation level, opening a wormhole, even if it was a short distance and an uncertain wormhole, placed an immense burden on him. It exceeded his capabilities. This pressure caused Myriad God to suffer heavy injuries. Now, Myriad God no longer had the strength to continue fighting. Myriad God, recuperate in peace. Leave the rest to us. Lu Ming walked over and took out a top-grade healing pill for Myriad God to consume. After consuming the pill, Myriad God sat cross-legged and quietly circulated his energy to recuperate. As for Lu Ming, he instructed his subordinates to scout the vicinity. Some of them converged their auras and scattered in all directions. Not long after, they returned. They had landed on a planet that was barren and devoid of life. It was likely an abandoned planet. As for whether it was within the barbarian realm, it was uncertain. Lu Ming secretly heaved a sigh of relief. This was not the worst. If they had landed on a habitable planet within the barbarian realm, that would have been the worst. Finally, Lu Ming planned on staying here for a few days. They would set off when Myriad God's injuries were slightly better. Myriad God's physique was extremely terrifying. He was born from the essence blood of dozens of primordial gods. His vitality was astonishingly strong. In just a few days, his complexion had improved a lot. He had also recovered some yuan qi. The cracks on his body had more or less vanished. If it were an ordinary person, it would take at least a few months for them to recover from such severe injuries. After the all-gods recovered some of their vitality, Lu Ming and the rest left the planet. Lu Ming took out a battleship and they boarded it. This battleship was not big. Lu Ming had obtained it from the barbarians during the battle with them. At the very least, they to some extent to cover. Not long after, they discovered a planet in the distance. It was a planet with life. "I'll go investigate," Lan Shong said. "Uncle Lan, be careful. Don't worry. I'll use an array to conceal my aura. It won't be a problem if I watch from afar." Blue Merchant smiled and flew towards the planet. But not long after, Blue Merchant returned. The moment he returned, Lu Ming's heart sank. Blue Merchant's expression was very solemn. It did not look like he had discovered good news. "That habitable planet is filled with barbarians. We are in the barbarian realm," Blue Merchant said. These words made the hearts of Lu Ming and company sink. Their expressions were very solemn. Indeed, they were still in the barbarian realm. This was not good news. The territory controlled by the barbarian realm was filled with barbarians. They were not barbarians and could be recognized at a glance. How were they to escape? If they were discovered by the barbarians in the barbarian realm, it would be truly dangerous. Most importantly, they did not have a star zone map. They were like headless flies, flying everywhere. "Manor Lord, what should we do?" Some people looked pale and looked at Lu Ming. "Don't panic. We are riding in the barbarians' battleship. We can hide for a while and find a chance to find the star zone map. Then, we will leave the barbarians' territory and return to the Taishu dynasty," Lu Ming said. Seeing Lu Ming's confident face, the others also calmed down a little. "Let's leave here first. After that, don't get close to the habitable planet of the barbarian race. We will go to the remote starry sky to find a lone barbarian and seize the star zone map." Lu Ming explained the plan. Then, they drove the interstellar battleship and left this place, flying into the vast starry sky. In a star zone at the border between the barbarian race and the Taishu dynasty, there were densely packed battleships floating. Each battleship was incomparably majestic and shockingly large. Battleships hundreds of millions of miles long were everywhere. This was the barracks headquarters of the barbarian race's war against the Taishu dynasty. It was the place where Marshal Mieshu was stationed. Above the huge fleet, there was a huge palace floating. This palace was the residence of Marshal Mieshu. It moved with the army. At this time, many people were discussing things in the palace. The one sitting at the top was Marshal Mieshu. But what was surprising was that this Marshal Mieshu was not from the barbarian race. This was a middle-aged man. He was tall and burly, with a height of 3 meters. His skin was densely covered with scales, and there was a single horn between his eyebrows. This was a single-horned crocodile man. A single-horned crocodile man actually served as the barbarian race's Marshal Mieshu. This was a very strange thing. The single-horned crocodile man, who was also Marshal Mieshu, sat at the top. Below him, there were many barbarian race generals. "Marshal, I received news not long ago. I heard that a group of small fries from the Taishu dynasty rushed into our territory." Below, a barbarian general reported. "Small fries from the Taishu dynasty, what kind of cultivation base do they have?" Marshal Mieshu asked. I heard that the highest cultivation base is only 3rd-level divine monarch," the barbarian general reported. Boom. A terrifying aura suddenly spread out from Marshal Mieshu's body. This aura was very horrifying. It was filled with a destructive aura as if it could destroy everything and crush the galaxy. Although those barbarian generals below were all existences with extremely terrifying strength, under this aura, each and every one of them trembled with fear and did not even dare to breathe loudly. "All of you are trash." A group of small fries with the strongest being only 3rd-level divine monarch. "How can you let the other party enter our territory? What are you all doing?" A cold voice came out from Marshal Mieshu's mouth. It was murderous and bone-chilling. "Marshal, I heard that among that group of people, there is a young man who can open a wormhole?" That barbarian reported. But when he spoke, he himself was a little hesitant. A young man could open a wormhole? Was this possible? It was like a fantasy story. A young man can open a wormhole? Ha ha ha, you can even find such a childish reason. Do you think I am easy to bully? Marshal Mieshu said coldly, his face turning even uglier. Chapter 3373. Marshal Mieshu's face turned even uglier. Those barbarian generals were trembling with fear, not daring to speak. They knew how terrifying this Marshal Mieshu was. His hands were stained with the blood of countless Taishu dynasty experts. Otherwise, with his identity as a single-horned crocodile man, how could he be the Marshal? Marshal, I didn't believe it at first, but there were at least tens of thousands of people who witnessed this scene. They all swore that it was true and that the other party had used a wormhole to escape. Otherwise, they would have been wiped out long ago, the barbarian general said. Wormhole? Marshal Mieshu whispered, frowning. He still found it hard to believe, but tens of thousands of people witnessed and swore, so he had to believe it. The news said that the person's cultivation is still low, only a second-layer divine lord. Even if he can open a wormhole, the distance won't be too far. It's very likely that he's in the territory of the barbarian race, or even within a few starfields at the border. Marshal, please give the order to search, the barbarian general said. Well, pass down my order. Search the entire territory. Once found, kill without mercy. Marshal Mieshu ordered coldly, but after that, he continued, wait, don't kill the young man who can open a wormhole. I want him alive. I want to see what kind of monster a young man can open a wormhole. Yes. The barbarian general accepted the order and then retreated to make arrangements. At this moment, many powerful forces at the border between the barbarian race and the Taishu dynasty received the news. On a huge, skull-like planet, there was a powerful force. A scum from the Taishu dynasty has entered the territory of the barbarian race. Very well, search with all our strength and crush these ants. The leader of this force gave the order. Search with all our strength. Destroy these Taishu dynasty ants. In several starfields at the border, large and small forces began to search for Lu Ming and the others in the universe. Lu Ming and the others did not dare to get close to those life planets. They all went far away and deliberately ran to remote places. Fortunately, they were on a barbarian warship. Although they were able to bypass the life planet several times, they were still discovered by the barbarian warship. However, when they saw that they were on a barbarian warship, they thought that they were patrolling and did not check. This allowed them to escape by luck. During this period of time, they ran into barbarians who had strayed from the group and took them down. Unfortunately, they didn't manage to obtain a map of the star area, which made them sigh in regret. Just like that, they flew in the pitch-black and boundless starry sky for over 3 months. Without a map of the starfield, they could only fly around aimlessly without any sense of direction. What they didn't know was that in these 3 months, not only had they not approached the Taishu dynasty, but they had also distanced themselves from the Taishu dynasty. This was because they were flying in the opposite direction, towards the center of the land of the barbarians. Fortunately, after 3 months, Wenshin's injuries had completely healed. He had returned to his peak condition. This gave them some confidence. After all, the strength of the myriad gods was obvious to all. There's someone ahead. Suddenly, someone spoke. Through the control room of the battleship, they could see a fleet flying over from the depths of the starry sky. They could see that there were more than 10 battleships in this fleet, but they weren't very large. The longest one was about a few million miles long. Compared to the behemoths on the battlefield, they were many times weaker. However, the heartbeats of Lu Ming and the others couldn't help but accelerate. It wasn't wise to turn around and run now. Wouldn't that mean that they were guilty? It would definitely arouse the other party's suspicion. They could only grit their teeth and continue forward, hoping that the other party wouldn't investigate. Rumble. The battleship flew through the void, producing loud rumbling sounds. Soon, the two sides approached each other. The battleship in front, stop. Suddenly, a voice came from the barbarian battleship, shaking the starry sky and reaching their ears. This was definitely the voice of a divine Lord realm expert. Otherwise, it wouldn't have reached their ears through the battleship. The hearts of Lu Ming and the others sank. If the other party told them to stop, the situation didn't look good. Stop first, Lu Ming said. After that, the person controlling the battleship stopped the battleship. In front of them, more than 10 battleships fanned out and surrounded their battleship. We are searching for the people of the Taishu dynasty. Now, we want to search your battleship. We apologize for offending you. Everyone inside, come out for investigation. The voice sounded again. Oh no. Lu Ming and the others were shocked. The barbarians had already started a large-scale search for them. They obviously suspected them and wanted them to go out for investigation. Once they went out, everything would be exposed. Activate the battleship and rush over, Lu Ming ordered. Buzz. The battleship made a slight vibration sound. The large array on the surface of the battleship was activated. Dense runes appeared and shrouded the battleship. Boom. A beam of light burst out from the bow of the battleship and blasted toward the battleship in front. The other party obviously didn't expect Lu Ming and the others to suddenly launch an attack. It was too late to dodge. With a loud bang, the battleship was directly hit by the beam of light. Lu Ming's battleship was seized from the battlefield. Its power was amazing. It was definitely not something these small battleships could compare to. The battleship that was hit directly exploded and turned into a ball of fire. Lu Ming's battleship rushed over. Damn it, it's the bastards of the Taishu dynasty. Don't let them escape. Chase them. Spread the news. Loud roars came from the battleship behind them. More than 10 battleships were activated and chased after Lu Ming and the others. However, their battleships were obviously not as fast as Lu Ming's battleship. They were left behind and the distance between the two sides was increasing. However, not long after, Lu Ming and the others' hearts sank. Because in front of them, another fleet flew in their direction in a fan shape and blocked their way. Obviously, the other party had received the news and was intercepting them here. It's the people of the Taishu dynasty. Open fire. A cold voice came from the battleship in front. Boom. 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 More than 10 battleships were filled with runes and then burst out with beams of light that blasted toward Lu Ming and the others. With so many battleships attacking from different directions, Lu Ming's battleship couldn't dodge at all and was directly hit. Although the surface of Lu Ming's battleship was protected by a large array, it still shook violently. At this time, the more than 10 battleships chasing from behind had also arrived. They also burst out with beams of light that blasted toward Lu Ming and the others, causing their battleship to shake even more violently. If this continued, their battleship would be destroyed before long. I'll go down and destroy their battleship, Wan Shen said. We'll go too. The other Divine Lord Realm powerhouses also spoke. In such a situation, only by destroying the other party's battleship could they survive. Chapter 3374. Be careful. Lu Ming exhorted. Don't worry. Wan Shen and the rest nodded before opening the door and charging out. The moment they charged out, their figures flashed as they dodged the enemy's beam of light and charged towards the battleships in front of them. Lu Ming had more than a dozen Divine Lord Realm experts under him. Although these battleships were huge and had boundless might, they would definitely not be able to withstand the attack of a Divine Lord. Go out and stop them. A voice came from the enemy battleships. Following that, figures charged out from the battleships in front and behind them. They were all Divine Lord Realm experts. There were more than 20 of them in total, nearly double the number on Lu Ming's side. Kill. Wan Shen roared. Before he arrived, a silver river charged out, traversing the starry sky and enveloping a second-level Divine Lord Realm expert from the barbarian race. The barbarian let out a tragic cry as his body was instantly reduced to ashes. Kill. A third-level Divine Lord Realm Barbarian wielded a giant axe as he charged at Wn Shun. Wn Shun brandished his stone spear which extended to hundreds of thousands of miles long as it traversed the starry sky. With a poochie sound, blood splattered as the barbarian race expert was pierced through, dying a violent death. How terrifying! The other barbarians were alarmed. Wan Shun's strength was too astonishing. You guys hold them back first. I'll go destroy their battleships. Wan Shun transmitted his voice to the other divine lords. Following that, a pair of wings condensed behind him. This was also an origin secret technique. With a flap of his wings, Wan Shun's figure vanished. The next moment, he appeared in front of a battleship. His stone spear rapidly enlarged and swept out. Boom! The battleship exploded as the barbarians inside flew in all directions in fear. However, the barbarians' cultivation was nearly all below the Divine Lord realm. They were crushed by the force brought about by the stone spear, causing them to explode. All of this happened in the blink of an eye. After destroying the battleship, Wan Shun's figure moved again as he charged towards the next battleship. With a sweep of his stone spear, another battleship was destroyed. Following that, Myriad God attacked with all his might. His speed was too fast. Every time he flashed, a battleship would be destroyed. Those battleships exploded one by one. Almost in the span of a breath, 7 or 8 battleships were blown up. It was unknown how many barbarians had died in those battleships. Die! With a furious roar, a burly berserker charged towards the 10,000 gods. This barbarian was the leader of these fleets. He had 4th-level Divine Lord cultivation, his strength extremely powerful. He slashed out with his axe, and the starry sky tumbled as if the entire starry sky was about to be split apart. 4th-level Divine Lord was much stronger than 3rd-level Divine Lord. However, Myriad God's expression did not change. His eyes were filled with intense killing intent. I don't have time to fight with you. Die! The 10,000 gods roared as a silver river appeared and swept towards the other party. Then, a sovereign's gate appeared and suppressed the other party. Then, a stone blade, a stone sword, a stone pagoda, a pitch-black whirlpool, and a wisp of terrifying flame, origin secret techniques, all of them were origin secret techniques. Pantheon instantly unleashed a dozen or so origin secret techniques, all of which rained down on his opponent. The other party had never seen such a situation before. He was scared silly and let out an incredulous roar. Then, he was drowned by the dozen or so origin secret techniques. Before he could even let out a scream, he was smashed into meat paste and his soul scattered. A 4th-level Divine Lord existence was instantly one-shotted. The remaining barbarians were shocked and lost all their courage. Their confidence suffered a great blow. Even their leader, a 4th-level Divine Lord, was instantly killed. How were they to fight? Retreat, retreat, retreat. With a few loud roars, the remaining barbarian experts quickly flew back to the battleships. Then, the battleships were activated and they fled for their lives. Lu Ming called out to the all-gods, not allowing them to give chase. It was better not to pursue a cornered enemy. It would be dangerous if they encountered more powerful barbarians. This was a good opportunity to escape. After the 10,000 gods and the others boarded the battleships were activated and they left this place. A few days later, Lu Ming and the others landed on a huge meteorite. Lu Ming put away the battleships. They dug a large hole in the meteorite and planned to hide there for a while and rest. Now that the barbarians were clearly searching for them, it was more dangerous to run around. It was better to find a secret place to hide. It would be safer. They hid in the meteorite and did not believe that the barbarians could find them. After erasing their traces, they temporarily hid in the meteorite and flew aimlessly with the meteorite. In Marshal Mieshu's palace, Marshal Mieshu was discussing matters with the barbarian generals. During this period of time, the barbarians and the Taishu dynasty were constantly fighting. Both sides had suffered losses. After discussing the war, Marshal Mieshu asked, "Have you found the people from the Taishu dynasty who escaped into our territory?" "Marshal, I was just about to report this to you." The barbarian general from last time stepped forward and said, I just received news that the ants from the Taishu dynasty are still in the barbarian stream starfield. They were discovered by our people, but they escaped again. They escaped again. What trash. Marshal Mieshu said coldly. He was very unhappy. Marshal, the main thing is that we don't have many experts this time. The young man who opened the wormhole last time is too strong. It's unbelievable. The scene of the previous battle has been recorded by the Rest Shadow Stone. Marshal, please take a look. After the barbarian general finished speaking, he took out a jade talisman and inserted his divine power. The jade talisman lit up and projected an image in the air. This image was the scene of the battle between Lu Ming and the barbarians. Soon, the image changed to the battle between the 10,000 gods and the barbarians. That's the Dark Ape Fighting Tribe. When Marshal Mieshu saw the Dark Ape Fighting Tribe, he seemed very excited. He suddenly stood up from his seat with a complicated look in his eyes. Then, his eyes flashed. No one knew what he was thinking. At this time, the others did not notice Marshal Mieshu's strange behavior because they were all attracted by the 10,000 gods. The strength of the 10,000 gods was too shocking. When Pantheon unleashed more than a dozen origin secret techniques, the entire place fell into a deathly silence. Everyone present was dumbfounded. Their faces were full of shock and their eyes were full of disbelief. One person controlling more than a dozen origin secret techniques was like a fairy tale. They were considered the upper echelons of the barbarians and had seen a lot. However, they had never heard of such a thing, let alone seen it. What kind of monster is this? After a long while, someone finally reacted. He swallowed his saliva and said in a trembling voice. This could only be described as a monster. Is this the person who opened the wormhole? Marshal Mieshu asked. Yes, it's him. Chapter 3375. It's indeed incredible, Mieshu muttered. Then, he added in his heart, the Dark Ape Fighting Tribe. How did they appear? I must get to the bottom of this matter. Of course, he did not say it out loud, so the others did not hear it. Marshal, I can't believe that there's such a monster in the Taishu dynasty. We must get rid of them. Otherwise, they'll be a threat to us. I'll send more experts to search for them. No matter where they're hiding, we must find them and kill them, the barbarian general said in a murderous tone. Wait a minute. Mieshu waved his hand and stood up. His eyes flickered and he said, Don't kill them. I want them alive. Alive. The others were confused. That's right. Among this group of people, there are such peerless geniuses. This group of people is extraordinary. If we capture them alive, it might be more valuable than killing them directly. We can make the Taishu sacred dynasty pay more, Mieshu explained. That's true. The other barbarians were also moved. That young man was too terrifying. He might be an important figure in the Taishu dynasty. If they captured him, they might be able to lure the big fish of the Taishu dynasty. That's why we should keep those people alive if we can. They might be of great use to us, Mieshu said seriously. Yes, Marshal. The barbarian general obeyed. Go, capture those people and bring them to me, Mieshu said. Soon, Mieshu's order was spread to the few star regions near the barbarian race. Continue to search for Lu Ming and the others, but do not kill them. They must be kept alive. Lu Ming and the others had been hiding in the meteorite. They drifted with the meteorite for more than a year. They did not know where they had drifted for more than a year. However, they were all above the Divine King realm. They could go into seclusion for millions of years. It was nothing for them to stay in seclusion for a year. However, something big happened in the barbarian race during this period of time. The treasure of the barbarian race, Mount Barbarian God, reappeared. Mount Barbarian God was a legendary treasure of the barbarian race, but it did not appear often. Normally, Mount Barbarian God would hide in the void and no one would be able to find it. Every once in a while, Mount Barbarian God would suddenly appear at a certain location in the starry sky. This location wasn't fixed, it would appear at a different location every time. Once it appeared, Mount Barbarian God would drift about in the galaxy. After a period of time, Mount Barbarian God would suddenly disappear. Legend had it that the ancestor of the Berserkers, the god of Berserkers, was training in isolation in Mount God of Berserkers. This would cause a strange presence to spread out from Mount God of Berserkers. As long as the Berserkers stayed far away from Mount God of Berserkers and were enveloped by the presence of Mount God of Berserkers, there was a possibility that they would gain an epiphany or even undergo a transformation and evolve into the terrifying god of Berserkers. Hence, every time Mount Barbarian God appeared, it would be a grand event for the Berserker tribe. Countless powerful Berserkers would descend upon Mount Barbarian God. This time, Mount Barbarian God appeared in the Barbarian Stream Galaxy, which was located at the border between the Barbarian race and the Taishu dynasty. For a time, the winds and clouds gathered in the Barbarian meteor domain. Countless Barbarian powerhouses arrived. In the starry sky of the universe, an incomparably huge mountain was suspended in the air. It was a pitch-black mountain that was as big as a planet of life. It was drifting aimlessly in the starry sky. This was Mount Barbarian God. Behind and on both sides of Mount Barbarian God were a large number of powerful berserkers. Some were old, and some were young. They were moving forward with Mount Barbarian God. At the same time, they were carefully experiencing the changes in the mountain, hoping that they would be able to achieve a transformation. Of course, there were no berserkers in the direction of Mount Barbarian God. These berserkers were very far away from Mount Barbarian God. They did not dare to get close. This was because this was the god of berserkers' place of seclusion. Getting close would be a blasphemy to the god of berserkers. It would be disrespectful to the god of berserkers. In another part of the starry sky of the Barbarian meteor domain, Lu Ming and the others stayed in the meteorite and continued to drift along with it. Rumble. At this moment, a violent rumble came from outside. The entire meteorite started to tremble violently. What's going on? Have we been discovered? The expressions of Lu Ming and the others changed. Rumble. Rumble. The rumble grew louder and louder. The meteorite started to tremble more and more violently. In the end, the entire meteorite exploded. A powerful force swept toward them. A few god lords from the Dark Ape combat tribe swung their fists and broke through the force. After that, they retreated frantically. However, no one continued to attack them. After they retreated a distance, they were speechless when they took a closer look. In the starry sky ahead, two huge beasts were fighting. These two wild beasts were extremely huge. Each of them was over 1,000 miles long. Roar! Roar! The wild beasts roared. Their roars shook the starry sky as they fought fiercely. Violent force swept out in all directions. These two wild beasts were first-level god lords. They did not pay any attention to Lu Ming and the others. Lu Ming and the others were speechless. They were too unlucky. Just now, it wasn't because they were discovered, nor was it because someone attacked them. They were just unlucky. The meteorite just happened to drift near the two wild beasts and was shattered by the aftermath of the battle. It was really an unexpected disaster. Let's go. Let's leave quickly, Lu Ming shouted. The longer they stayed here, the easier it was for them to be discovered. Their figures flashed as they left the area where the wild beasts were fighting. They flew in another direction, intending to find another secret place to hide. Now, they could only find a place to hide. After a few hundred or 1,000 years, the barbarian tribe's search for them would weaken. Only then would they have a chance to escape from the barbarian tribe's territory and return to the Taishu dynasty. On a vital planet not far from Lu Ming and the others, there was a huge mountain peak. On the peak of this mountain, there were many array platforms. These array platforms were glowing. Dense runes appeared on them. At the same time, on these array platforms, there were images of the starry sky that were constantly changing. They've appeared. The group of small fries from the Taishu dynasty have appeared. Suddenly, a voice was heard. It was filled with excitement. Many barbarian tribe members looked in the direction of the voice. Indeed, on one of the array platforms, a picture appeared. In the picture, Lu Ming and the others were flying in the starry sky. Obviously, the barbarian tribe had set up surveillance arrays all over the starry sky. They could silently monitor the situation in the starry sky. Not long after Lu Ming and the others came out from the meteorite, they were detected by the surveillance array. Quickly report to the Lord that we've found the people from the Taishu dynasty. Quickly. Soon, the news was reported. The location where Lu Ming and the others had appeared was reported in detail. The rest of the people continued to monitor. Somewhere in the starry sky, Lu Ming and the others did not know that they had been discovered. They restrained their presence and wanted to find a secret place to hide. This time, they did not plan to look for meteorites. They wanted to find a barren planet and hide inside it for a few hundred or 1,000 years. Chapter 3376. In a blink of an eye, they flew for a few days. Suddenly, rumble. Ahead, there were huge meteorites flying towards them at high speed, bringing along a terrifying force, crashing towards Lu Ming and the rest. What's going on? The faces of Lu Ming and the rest changed. Retreat! Lu Ming shouted softly, bringing people to retreat. These meteorites flew over inexplicably, giving Lu Ming a bad premonition. But when they retreated, there were also meteorites flying over from behind. At the same time, loud rumbling sounds came from the right, left, top, and bottom. Meteorites, they were all meteorites. There were meteorites flying towards them from all directions, looking like they were going to smash them into meat paste. The faces of Lu Ming and the rest changed, becoming somewhat ugly. They knew that their whereabouts had been discovered. Otherwise, it would be impossible for those meteorites to come crashing toward them from all directions. It was clear that this was man-made. Break! Lu Ming shouted. The Overlord God spear appeared. A spear light soared into the sky, rushing towards a meteorite. Boom! Boom! The others also took action. Several thousand attacks blasted towards the meteorites in all directions, erupting with violent rumbles. Those meteorites exploded one by one, being beaten to ashes. However, the hearts of Lu Ming and the rest sank. That was because they could feel powerful auras coming from all directions behind the meteorite. Sure enough, when the smoke and dust dissipated, burly figures appeared one after another around Lu Ming and the rest. All of them were barbarians. They were surrounded. Sweeping a glance, there were at least over 100,000 barbarian army surrounding them. Especially the aura of some of them, it was really too terrifying, forming an incomparably terrifying pressure, pressing down on Lu Ming and the rest, making people's hearts turn cold. Trouble. Lu Ming and the rest silently said in their hearts. This time, it was really troublesome. The other party had too many powerhouses. There were definitely many existences that surpassed 4th-level Divine Lord. Such powerhouses were not what they could deal with. Boom. The void vibrated and a burly figure stepped out. It was a barbarian in a purple-gold battleship. His aura was wild and overbearing, as deep as the sea. He gave people a feeling that he was as majestic as a mountain. This feeling was similar to when Lu Ming faced Yuan Tsong. This person was most likely in existence not weaker than Yuan Tsong, someone from the Taishu dynasty. As the purple golden armored berserker opened and closed his eyes, they were filled with a ferocious aura. He swept his gaze across Lu Ming and company before finally landing on Myriad God. I'll give you a chance now. Surrender and I'll leave your corpses intact. The purple golden armored barbarian opened his mouth. His voice was as loud as a bell, and it shook the eardrums of Lu Ming and the others. Either we fight or surrender. Impossible. Lu Ming shouted. At this point, they could only fight. They would rather die in battle than surrender and be killed in humiliation. A battle? With just the few of you, what do you have to fight us? A bunch of ants. Attack and take them down, the purple golden armored berserker said coldly. He then waved his hand and gave the order. Attack from the side, Lu Ming shouted. Qiu transformed into a suit of armor that covered his entire body. He took the lead and charged to the right. The only thing they could do now was to gather all their strength and charge in one direction to see if they could break out. You still want to break out? Kill. On the right, a burly berserker shouted and punched out. A huge fist print blasted toward Lu Ming. The terrifying fist pressure pressed down on Lu Ming, making it difficult for Lu Ming to breathe. This was a terrifying existence in the Divine Lord realm. Battle Ancestor, be careful. On the side, an expert from the Dark Ape fighting tribe rushed up and punched out as well, colliding with the fist print of the Berserker expert. However, the Berserker expert's cultivation was obviously stronger. He directly shattered the fist energy of the Dark Ape fighting tribe. The remaining energy swept toward Lu Ming, causing his body to tremble violently. He was forced to retreat as he spat out a mouthful of blood. The existence of the Divine Lord realm was too strong. It was not something he could withstand. The difference was too great. At this moment, Lu Ming's subordinates were also fighting with the Berserkers. However, there were too many Berserkers and they had come prepared. It was impossible for them to deal with them. When the pressure came, Lu Ming's subordinates coughed up blood and retreated. They were seriously injured. Kill. Wan Shen roared like a wild beast. His long hair fluttered as he rushed to the front. A galaxy rushed forward and swept toward the Berserkers. At the same time, the Sovereign's Gate, stone spears, stone swords, stone sabers, etc., blasted forward. All of them are Origin Source secret techniques. The Berserkers widened their eyes in shock. They had heard that there was a monster among the people of the Taishu dynasty who had mastered more than 10 Origin Source secret techniques. However, it was one thing to hear about it and another to see it with their own eyes. Even though they had seen it with their own eyes, it was still unbelievable. Wan Shen attacked with all his strength. His combat strength was too strong. He broke through the attacks of the Berserkers and enveloped hundreds of them. Not good. The Berserkers' expressions changed drastically as they felt the aura of death. Block it. They roared and resisted with all their strength. However, when Wan Shen's attack landed, the Berserkers' bodies still exploded and they died on the spot. Let's charge out together. Wan Shen roared and erupted with all his strength. He was like a sharp knife that pierced forward, wanting to charge out. Don't even think about it. Kneel. At this moment, a furious roar sounded. A white-haired berserker appeared in front of Wan Shen and punched out. That single punch caused the void to explode. Violent shockwaves pressed down on the myriad gods, causing the dozens of quintessent secret skills of the myriad gods to vibrate and explode. Puff. Wan Shen coughed up blood and flew back with a pale face. Many people's hearts sank. The white-haired berserker was too strong. His cultivation was definitely above a 4th-level Divine Lord. No matter how strong Wan Shen was, he was only a 2nd-level Divine Lord. It was difficult for him to fight across so many levels. You overestimate yourself and still want to fight back. Take them down. The purple golden-armored berserker continued to give orders coldly. The berserker army stepped forward from all directions. Their terrifying aura gathered together and pressed down on them like an iron wall. Don't even think about hurting the war ancestor. Stop them. The Dark Ape fighting tribe that Lu Ming had brought with him roared and transformed into giant apes. They rushed toward the berserkers. However, there were too many berserkers. A large group of berserkers attacked and the Dark Ape fighting tribe was no match for them. They coughed up blood and their bodies were covered in wounds. However, they fought to the death and did not retreat. They looked unyielding. Fight it out with them. At most, we will die. Those who had joined Lu Ming later were riled up. They roared and rushed toward the berserkers. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.